know if you're able to see the screen here. Okay, all right. Now we know, what is the standard objects and what are the custom objects that we can create and the custom fields and what are the data types. Those data types, whenever we manipulate, we always declare the variable, and we know why do we need the development in the Salesforce, and also we talked about the architecture, and we know what is the presentation layer, what is the model, and what is the controller. The controller is nothing but the Apex, and the model is nothing but the database, and the presentation layer or the view is the classic, or it could be the Visual Force pages or in the Lightning. Okay, we talked about how we can, what is a variable and how we can declare the variable, and we talked about what is the Apex language, and it's a controller, and it's the cloud-based development, and it's stored and compiled, and what are the it's a Java-based language. It has the class interface and arrays and everything related to, similar to the Java. And also I explained it with some other class and how to declare the variable, how to pass the arguments and all those things. And what are the highlights of the Apex we have been seeing about? It's hosted in the cloud, and by default it's connected to the database, and as soon as you type the language, it gets compiled and then throw the error message, and it's object oriented like Java. And we can also do the unit testing. I'll be covering the separate class about how we can do the unit testing and all that. Okay, now we have been talking about the data types. So we have various data types, which is called the primitive data types and the collections. Okay, and we talked about why do we need the public, private, and protected access modifiers. Okay, and how can we even created a sample class. In case if you need the notes, probably I can log in here, login.salesforce.com, and you must be having this developer account to do all these practices. Okay, and we already know how we can do the development. You can go to the developer console. This is the out of box which comes. You can also do with your plugin, and say the plugin in the IDEs. When I say IDE, it's an development interface for the development. Okay, I can even copy this and then put it here so that it's useful. Now you know that how to call from the call your class. You can just call from the class.method name. This is the class, and we called it up. So as soon as you go to the test debug, so this is what we did: class name dot method name. Okay, this is where we stopped. Okay, all right. Any questions so far? Okay, so when we have been talking about the data types, right? Now we know what is class. This is a class, right? Now we know what is class and what is a variable. How can we declare a variable? And what is a method? And what is an argument? This is the argument to the method. And we know how to display the message, or how to display, how to manipulate inside the method, and how to call the method like other class can call. Okay, how to call the method and then display them, anything. Okay, so this is the programming model. We know all the basic things, basic things of programming. One more thing that I want to tell is, when you're writing this program, right, I want to explain a piece by piece, okay, before we even move forward. Now we know public class, this is the class name, and this is the function or the method name, and this is the argument. Okay, so when you're writing the method, you can even expose the method to everybody. That's why we use the public. Public is wide open. Okay, we can even have the private, which can be used, which can be called within your organization, only within the org. Nobody can from external app. Like if it is in your one of the sales app, only within your app it can be accessed, not from other app if you make it private. Okay, and I want to explain you what is this static. Okay, so let's talk about the, before even we go to the other data types, let's talk about what is the static. I wrote it as static, right, method. Okay, some more than basics in method signature. What did I write? I put the static, right? What is static? Basically, the static means it's a, whenever we are using the method as static method, give me 1 second, guys. Let me close this notifications. Okay. Okay. Whenever we call the method a static method, which means that we don't need to instantiate the class as object. Meaning, okay, even before this, the static, I want to teach you what is object. Okay, what is object? We know what is class. I was teaching you what is class. A class is a combination of collection of actions and its data, right? What are the actions? For example, if it is related to the flight, it's like new reservations. Adding 2 numbers is one of the action. If it is related to the flight, it's like either new reservations or cancel the existing reservations. Those are all the actions, right? We know what is a class. Okay. Now, with the variables and the actions. Now, what is object? The object is nothing but it's a blueprint of class. Blueprint of class. You can create as many objects that we want from class. Meaning the signature of object. How do we create an object? Class name, object name equal to new class name. We know the class name, okay, and we can create one object name, one object with a new operator. So new is the operator to create an object. Okay, so say for example, why do we need the object? For example, in the real-time scenario, right? In the real-time scenario, for example, you have your flight. Okay, the flight is a class, and which has, think of a capsule. What does the capsule has? The capsule has the medicine inside it, right? I'm not talking about the tablet. I'm talking about the capsule. So think of a capsule as a class, which has the medicine inside. It has 2 pieces, right? You can break the capsules. One top piece, and usually the both will be in different color. Like you can take the capsule out and you can see the medicine inside, right? It will be in powder, whatever. So think of the same thing. Your capsule, that is called in object-oriented programming called encapsulation. Encapsulation. When we are talking about the encapsulation, all the variables and methods are bundled inside the class. If you see here, I have my flight number, origin, destination, whatever. They're all method also. They're all bundled inside the class. In our example, what we wrote, this is the class training 2, day 2. And we have the variable and we have the method. And somebody is passing the name and then we are printing it, all those manipulations that we are doing, right? Those are all capsulated inside the class. If you want to take a copy If you want to take a copy of a class, that's where we use the object. Why do we need the object? You don't have to add, in order to consume the data within the class, you need the object. In order to consume the data, if there is a data, for example, A has one value, or B has one value, name Jitan. If it has a variable and it has a value. In order to consume any of this, you need an object. And there will be a question now. You can ask me a question. Hey Karthik, why we did not create an object here? That is why the static is coming in. If your method is static, it is self-instantiated. When your program try to execute, when your class is looking for the object, it can refer from the class name. It does not need the object, meaning it is self-instantiated. It is declared by itself that, okay, the method is static. I got compiled when we executed this program. But when you're having the static, we'll be talking more about the static in the future classes. Like when you're having the static, all the values that you have within the method will be, you cannot, when these values are coming out of this method, right? When the values are coming out of this method, the scope of those variable lives only within this method. I don't want to get there much deeper into that logic. I'll be talking to you about a separate class about the static. Right now, static means it is self-instantiated. You don't need to instantiate your object. For example, I removed the static now. Okay, I removed the static. And then I saved that. Okay. Now I'm trying to call the class name dot my object dot my method name. This is a print data is the method. Okay, I'm trying to the same code. I did not change any code here. All I did was I removed the static. Okay, all I removed the static keyword. That's all I did. I did not do anything. When you're trying to execute this code, it is going to throw an error message, anonymous error. Non-static method cannot be referenced from the static context. Void training print data, meaning you cannot non-static method. This is the non-static method. I did not specify the static. I removed the static. So it is non-static method. Cannot be referenced from the static context. Okay. So when you're talking about class name dot method name, this is the context of static, which means that we don't want to instantiate an object. We don't want to create an object. That is the context of non-static. That is the context of static. Okay. Whenever the class name dot object name, it is called static context. So this is the class name and this is the method name. When you're calling directly the class name dot method name, it is the static context. You cannot call directly using the class name without instantiating or without creating the object. You need the blueprint to access all the data. But if you have the static, you should be able to access it directly. But there is a pros and cons of using the static. I will tell you later when you're talking about the static as a separate class. We don't want to get confused here. The only thing is that when we are telling like, why do we need the object? And there is an options of without creating the object, you can access the data. Remember when I had a static, I directly accessed with the class name. But right now, it is not telling me, it is not letting me to access this method. When I'm executing it, it is throwing an error. Non-static method cannot be referenced from the static context. Here, the context is static. Your method also needs to be static. That's what it tells. Now, coming back to the object. Object is a blueprint of class. In order to access any of your data, you need the object. You can create as many objects as you want and you can access the data. For example, let me tell you here. Training dev2 obj1. This is the object one equal to new training. This creates a object. As I told you, this is the blueprint. The signature is like the new operator is to create an object. You can create an object. Remember, everything is an object in Salesforce, right? You need the object. Without object, you cannot do anything. Because you think of account, you think of lead, or you think of campaign, you think of opportunity. All of those are all object. So you can ask me, why do we need the object? Because object you need to access all of its data. It's a copy of the class. You need the object in order to manipulate the whole data. Say for example, I have an account object, right? I have an account object and I have an account object, okay? And I have contact object as an example. These are all objects, right? So I can create like account 1 and I can create account 2. Okay, when you create it, account 1, I can just pull only the account. I can only manipulate this account. Like say for example, this account will have name or any field of that particular object. Will have the name, will have the fax number, or will have the contact name, or will have the address, or will have the zip. So whenever I'm doing the account 1, this account 1, for example, this account 1 equal to Apple, you think Apple. This account 2 equal to, for example, you're saying that Google. So account.zip, when you're updating this account 1, when you're manipulating this account 1, only Apple gets changed. So the reason why we need to have the object is, when you are creating the object, you have access to the whole class. You can manipulate the whole class. Account 1.zip, it's easy to update address, or it's easy to update any of its properties, property of the class. Like for example, if you create a whole class, this is the whole class. And if you create an object, like for example, Karthik might be having its own flight, right? Flight number. I might be traveling from Chennai to New York, whereas Jitin might be traveling from London to Chicago. So he will have its own flight class and I will have my own flight class. When I'm just passing the argument, get the origin and destination from the flight, I can, in the context, it is going to give you the object. In the context of Jatin, the origin is going to be the London. And in my context, the origin is going to be Chennai, right? But he's going to have one copy and I'm going to have one other copy. So that's the copy of class. It's nothing but an object. Okay. So I will explain you by code and you will even understand better. So the reason why you need to have an object, so that you can have access to the entire class. The object is nothing but a blueprint of the class. Okay. So I'll explain you here. So when I'm trying to have this training day 2, I'm creating this object, right? Now, if you see here, I am accessing through the object 1.print data name. Okay. Now, if I go and execute this, it is executed. I just want to give you the debug only. If you go on debug only, it is printing the name Jatin, right? And if I go to my code, you see here, I'm creating the object. Okay, let me create another object. Object 2. And I have, for example, another string. Okay, why do I need to? I mean, okay, we can do that later. String name2 equal to Jatin. Okay. And then I'm passing this object 2, right? Object 2 dot print data. I'm passing the name 2. Okay. Here we are getting the name and then let's print the same name. Okay. Let's not override this. I'm removing this. Okay. So I'm passing the name comes here and then it's printing it. That's a simple logic. And I'm passing name2 and the name2 comes here and print it. The reason why I want to tell you is when I'm accessing this object1, the object1, it's going to print the name. When I'm creating another object, I'm passing the different name with the different name with the object2 I'm passing. So it's like there are like two objects from the same class, each does its own job, but both the object1 and both the object2 are still calling the same method within the class, right? So you can create as many objects as you want and then you can manipulate individually. Okay, I just want to give you a feel what is that object. Object is nothing but a copy of class. How do you create? You don't want to create a new class. You just want to keep duplicating, create the instantiation. This is called the object, creation of object, and it is getting instantiated. Okay. So this is the instantiation. Okay. So the way it works is it's creating a copy from the class and each object will perform by itself. Okay, each object will perform by itself. For example, okay, I have it here. And now you understood, like, I removed the context of static. Static means there is no need for instantiation of object. You can directly call class name dot method name. That will be a sure interview question. Okay, can you explain the static? I'll take a separate class about the static in much deeper and detail, but for now, the signature static can go in the method or in the function. When you have the static in the method, you can directly call class dot method name, which means that there is no need for the instantiation. Okay, and why do we need static? I'll come back to that. Okay, why do we need static? What is its pros? What is its cons? What it will do and all that. Right now, because it's very basic, you need to understand what is class, what is method, what is object, what is variable. When I'm declaring something, when I keep writing, I don't want to write not even a single piece of text without understanding. You can stop me and tell, why did you write that piece of code? Okay, now I demoed you by having the static, and after removing the static, if it doesn't work, so I have to create an object. Now you need an object to access the class, right? Class variables or member variable and member function. This is called a member. Class is here. This guy is a member of this class. This guy is also a member. So it's called member method or member variable. In order to access the member variable or member method from the class, you need to create an object. When you don't have a static in the method signature. Okay, usually we don't provide static, but I'm just saying, okay, that's how you need to create an object. Object is nothing but the instance of a class, which is the blueprint of a class. Okay, you have to create by using the operator new. Okay, now let's execute this and see what's happening. It got executed. Now you see, I'm printing Srinath and Jitin. Okay, now if you see the code, first I'm calling the object one, and I'm passing the name. So Srinath is printed. Oh, sorry, I had a typo. And then next I'm calling object 2 and I'm passing another name. Okay, you can even call, do we really need to pass the different name for each object? Not really. Like, you can even call the same object here, but it still works because object 1 dot method name, you're calling the name and you're replacing the name value here. That's all. Why do you need two objects in this case? That's a bad coding because this is going to consume the memory. Because if you want to print two names, why don't you use the same object? The main purpose of the object is reusable. You can reuse the same object by passing a different argument or by passing a different value. I'm using the same object here. I replaced this object 2 to object 1. Object 1 dot print data, I'm passing the first name, for this name. And I think we actually keep inside and it's like name 2. It's like name 1 and name 2. What are the colors shown in DC while writing the code. Does those relate side by side? Oh, those colors. Okay. This is the variable value and this is the variable declaration. So meaning these are the reserved keywords. Like you cannot, when you use the reserved keywords out of box, it displays in the blue color. Like, or like, the way that we are, when we are calling it. Okay. Like, for example, when you're declaring the variable, they show it in the blue. Okay. When you're declaring the variable, all the variable that you're declaring, it just displays. When you're declaring the class name, the default class, and like, this is the default class system. System is the default class, and they show it in the red color, and this is the method name. Whenever we have the method name, it is in the black color. Okay. So this is our value, the user defined value. This is the declaration. So that is why it is like in the different color it shows to help you to, the Salesforce Apex code is very easy to understand. And also, like, they're giving the line numbers and everything. So you can even understand the flow. Okay. Does that answer your question? Can we use string name equal to Srinath? That's what we did, right? String name equal to Srinath. String name equal to Srinath. This is exactly we did, right? String name equal to Srinath. So meaning this is the data type. It could, and this is the variable. And this is the value of the variable. We are initializing the variable with a value called Srinath. We are initializing the variable. Okay. You cannot have the same variable declared in the same program. It is going to throw an error, a duplicate. Say, for example, name, right? I'm having two name here. I'm trying to execute duplicate field name because you are trying to confuse the system. It cannot say, okay, why is it what this name will do, what that name will do. But if you replace, if you take this name out, it will work because you already declared the name, and this is still going to throw an error message because there is no such thing called name2. There's nothing called name2. You're having only name. Okay. And it's going to throw an error message. Oh, what the heck is name2? I don't understand what is this name2. It can understand the name. You declared once and Srinath, and you are overwriting the value and you're passing it. But name2, it doesn't understand. If you execute this, they'll throw an error message. Variable does not exist name2. This variable, I don't understand what the variable is. Now we are able to follow me what is class, what is object, what is variable, how to declare a variable, how to initialize the variable. And declaring the variable is nothing but you have to specify the data type. We have been dealing with the data type called string so far. And if you say here, if I'm just putting the name, what it will print? I'm having the name as Srinath. Is it going to print Srinath? No, because we are overwriting the value. The name is getting overwritten by Jatin. And Jatin will be displayed twice. I'm trying to execute this. Debug only. So Jatin, that's what it's executing it. Yes, it is possible. You can pass multiple arguments. You can even pass multiple arguments. So let's do that. So if you just have execute anonymous window, I'm having like name1, name and name2. I'm having, for example, name comma name2. Okay, I'm just going to delete this for now. I'm creating one object, and if you create an object and if you don't use it, your memory is going to be consumed. It's not going to compile. As long as the syntax is correct, it will create an object, but it will sit simply. It doesn't do anything, object 2. But object 1.print data, I'm using name and name 2. It will throw an error because the signature of the print data is you're passing 2 arguments. But this is the copy of the class. Copy of the class. Which class? Training day 2. And you're using the print data. Does it match? No, it doesn't match, right? Here it has only 1 argument, but you're trying to pass 2 string, and it has only 1 string. When you try to execute, variable does not exist name2. Okay, name2 doesn't exist. Variable name2 does not exist. The reason You did not specify the data type. You have to specify, right? Either it is string or int or anything. You have to. You cannot just left declare. You have to tell the system what data type is that. Okay, that is the first error. I'm putting now string. Okay, and then I'm putting now string. Okay, now that error will go. See, method does not exist or incorrect signature. Void print data from the type. So incorrect signature, the signature doesn't match. So the concept of the OOPS, the object-oriented programming is, for example, like, you can even have, like, for example, I have one more method. And then I'm having like string name, comma, string. Hey, it doesn't really matter. You need to have exactly the name too. You can even have A, you can even have B. Okay, this is the receiver, just a variable to receive. But you have to specify, if you're passing string, it has to be in the signature of string. Okay, if you're passing string, it has to be the signature of string. Okay, this is, anybody can write this code. For example, Jatin writes the code and then gives to Srinath and telling that, hey, Srinath, you just pass this to value man and you will get the output. And then when you're using that, you have to use the same signature. What is the signature? The signature is a print data and having two arguments, and the two argument of type data and data. Sorry, string and string. Two string are passed here. Okay, and then I'm saving this. Variable does not exist name. You're trying to use this name, okay, here, and then it doesn't exist. Okay, and I'm using A, and I'm using plus B. Let's do some practices like this, mess around, make some errors. It's good to make errors, learn from the errors. So I really want you both to go and do the hands-on like this and make some errors, fix it. That's why you'll get a confident. The more you write a code and make errors, like, we are all learning, including me. I'm learning. I might be making some mistakes, then going back and correcting it. Even if I don't know something that you're asking, I'm going to refer and then I'm going to get back to you. I'm not going to tell that I know everything. Okay, I don't know everything because we are all here to learn. So now the concept of the OOPS, object-oriented programming, is, remember, this is the same signature, which is okay. You can have multiple methods with the same name as long as they have a different signature. See, has only one argument. This has two arguments. Okay, we used to do in the live projects. If somebody is passing or calling, if the caller has only one value, it will still work. If the caller has two values, it will still work because it has the signature in the class, right? It depends on the scenario. Like, say for example, I'm passing like 2. Okay, let's see now. I'm trying to execute here. See, it is working because previously it said that it did not have a method, or the signature doesn't match. Now I created one more method and it worked. What is the output here? You see here, Srinath Jatin. Okay, so which means, what does my code do? I'm getting the value A and B and I'm just adding them. Adding them means, in the string it's called concatenation. String concatenation, like meaning merging two strings. It's called string concatenation. Okay, we're able to understand now. Now we know, like, it can have a different methods. All it needs to, caller needs to pass the same signature. That's all the caller needs to do. And then it can, see, we are not even using the object 2. Object 2 is sitting simply. Only I'm using only object 1. Say for example, I'm using again object 1 dot. I'm using the print data, but I'm passing only name 2. Will it work? Yes. It will work because this method is available, this signature is available, and this is going to get executed. And whatever the argument I pass, that is going to be printed. So that's the power of object-oriented programming language. See here. And I can even go and access. I'm going to keep. I can even go and change the name to name1. Jatin was printed. If Srinath wants to print, I can print it here. So this is called the method overloading. I'm overloading the method with a different signature. I'm overloading the method. Method name is same, but if it has only one value, this is going to be called, and if it has two values, this is going to be called. Or even I can say second method. This is my first program or second method. Anything is fine. Okay. Oh, I didn't save this code. Sorry. Okay. See here, this is my second method. And then the first program, these are all getting executed. This is the, so what I'm doing here is, so first I'm calling this method. So this is actually the second method, right? This is actually the second method. So it's getting printed first. And then I'm calling the first method. And then I'm passing the name as Srinath value, and then it's getting printed. So, but here, like, we are not doing anything with the integer. And now we are able to follow me. What is class? What is object? What is variable? How can we declare with the data type? What is object instance? How can we declare or instantiate the object? How can we instantiate the object? How can we instantiate the object? Okay. So how do we instantiate the object? And so and how can we trigger the method? And I was telling here, class name dot method name, right? Class name dot method name. Okay, this you can call the class name dot method name during the static context. How do we call the method? Class name dot method during the static context. And during the non-static or regular way of calling is creating the object dot method name. Okay. I really want you guys to go and do the hands-on like this. Okay, the moving forward, we'll be having like more complex things coming into the database and all those things. And even before that, I want you to understand what is class, what is object, what is data type, what is a variable. It's so simple, yeah. Like, we have been dealing with the string, right? For example, I go and declare like integer I equal to 10, or integer I, just integer I. Okay. And then I say that I equal to 10 and integer. And you can even use like integer I comma j. Okay. I equal to 10, j equal to 20, I plus j. K equal to I plus j. And then I'm printing it value of k. Okay, I'm not doing anything. I'm just hard coding the value. This is called hard coding. Literally, I'm hard coding the value. I'm just saving the class. See here, variable does not exist k, variable does not exist k. I know what is j, integer. I know what is I, integer. I know what is j, which is integer. I don't know what is k. We did not declare the variable called k. Now when I save it, those will be gone. See, those are gone. Now it is k. I'm printing the k. Now let's execute this. So see here, it is going to print the value 30, Srinath 30. Okay, What is the logic? This is the integer value, like I, j, k, and I is 10, and 10 plus 20 is 30, and I'm printing the value with 30. And even if you want to print, like, my value is something like single quotes. My value is, that's it, single quotes, and then another concatenation. Whenever you do the string concatenation, you have to use, this is a string. Literally, this is a string, right? String is a piece of text. And then you have to use the concatenation to display. Okay. So that is how you declare the integer. Similarly, if you want to declare as a double, you can use the decimal number, like floating and all those things. Okay. Is it all clear so far? Now we know what is class, what is object, how to use those, how to instantiate the class, and how to create the object. And we even see like polymorphism. This is called polymorphism. What is polymorphism? One thing in the different format. Poly. One means unit, more means poly, right? Poly. The print data is with a different signature. We are providing the same method name. This is called like polymorphism. It's one of the object-oriented concept. Okay. We learned quite a bit of stuff today. At least the very basic stuff. Okay. All right. Now we know what is static, what is object, what is class, what is variable, how can you declare the variable, how do you manipulate. This is the same thing. Once you know these things, if somebody is saying that, hey, Srinath, I'll be passing you the employee ID, and then you look it up the data in the database and then manipulate it and then print the data, or do whatever the stuff that you want. See, in the real-time scenario, Jatin will be writing this code, get employee detail. And whoever gets the employee details can pass the employee ID. It will be string or whatever the data type is. If the employee ID is integer, it's going to be an integer. Depends on the variable type. Like say, for example, whatever the variable that you declare in the object, this has to match, right? Property ID, property name, address. If you have the address as the string, you cannot manipulate this with the number. It doesn't make any sense. That is why I started off with the object, fields, and the data types. Because whenever you create an object, you know what data type it is going to be saved, right? Zip is going to be the number. The owner is going to be the text. The number of days is going to be the number. So you write your own piece of code, own logic, you write all the logic, and then you give the value back to Jatin. Srinath is writing the code. So that is how we do the real-time project. And anybody can call this. In multiple places, you can call the same method to print it, or whatever the same logic it needs to be done. So that is the reusability of the code. That is why we are creating the object. And see, for example, you can use multiple objects, right? You can even combine two objects. We'll be talking about more about the objects, the advanced things. Okay. I want you guys to make sure to understand what is class, what is object, what is variable, how can we declare the variable, how can we initialize the variable, how to manipulate the data. Like this is like little manipulation we are doing. String concatenation is a manipulation. Okay, these are all called the primitive data type. Primitive is a very basic data type: string, integer, double, float, and all those things. The decimal, if it is like float. Okay, is it all clear? And one more thing is like, what is this void? We know void. Hey, void the check, which means that it's nullified. Nothing is nothing but void, right? What is this? The method will have. The method can have the return type. Now we are talking about the method. Method can have the return type. Method can have the return type, right? Okay, give me 1 second, guys. I have to take the call. Okay, so the method can have the return type. Whenever somebody is calling the method, what that method is returning, that's the return type. Okay, so if for example, I'm going to return the integer, in that case, like you can return the integer or you can return the string value, anything that you can specify the return type. See here, if you're going to return, you have to return something. You're telling the method that, hey method, return this string. Okay, hey method, return this string, but you're not having any return at all. So what you want to do is you just have to specify return as another keyword. Return, if I'm having string, you have to return something called string. You cannot return I. If you are returning I, it is going to complain saying that, oh, you're returning the integer, but you're having the signature as string. See here, illegal conversion from integer to string. You're returning the integer, but your return type is string. Your method is giving back something. If you put void, your method don't have to give back anything. You write your logic and it resides here and it does inside this method. It doesn't go outside. When you're having the return, you're getting back the name and you're doing some logic and you're returning back to the caller. That's what the return type is. Does it make sense? If I put integer, it will work because I'm returning the integer I. I is the turn I'm returning back. Say for example, and then when you're going to call this is going to throw an error because it is not returning anything. So if you're seeing here, okay, and this is the debug, and what you could do is object one.print data, right? You're passing the name here. Okay, this is the print data having two names. Okay, and this is the one that you're having only one name. Say for example, you can have the integer int equal to, and you are getting the value back here, and then you can even print it here, system.debug. You're printing the integer value. Let's see. Int is reserved. Yeah, int is a reserved variable. You can say you cannot use that. Int val, for example, I'm saying the int val, and they're executing it. It's executing it, and then you see here it's returning only 10. Okay, the last statement. The reason is you're calling this and you're returning only I has the value 10, and it is this method is returning back, giving back 10, the value 10. That is why you have the integer. And when you call, you're calling it in the signature, and then you're saying that, hey, give me back the integer value, because this method is returning the integer, right? And then you're getting the value back in the integer, and then you're printing the int value. So this method is giving back to you something. So think about the real time. You can pass any value, do any logic, any complex logic, and giving back the value. So all your logic will be in your method, and then caller gets the final value. Here is the caller. Think of this is Srinath, and Jatin wrote this code. Srinath is calling the variable, calling the method, and then getting back the value from the code that was written by Jatin. Does it make sense? Okay, cool. Jatin, does it make sense? Were you able to follow me? It's cool. I need one more time on this. Okay, so what I'm saying is this method, right? Method has previously it had void. Void means nothing. It does not return anything. When the signature had the return type, this is just the data type. This is the return type, which means this method will return the value. Okay. So whenever the method is getting called, it will return back the value. See, this guy is calling this method, and then it's returning something. What is it returning? It has to return the signature of the integer. So you have this I as an integer here, right? It is returning the value integer. So this is the signature. This is how the signature works. This is the signature of the method. Here is the caller. The caller is calling this method. Okay. And then getting back the integer, because This is giving back the integer. This is the method that gives back the integer, right? You're getting the integer, like catching. It's throwing the ball and then it's catching the ball. It's throwing the value name and print data. What does it give you back? It gives back the integer and it's collecting in the integer value and then I'm printing it. Okay, so this signature or this method gives back something, whereas this method doesn't give back anything. It's void, so you don't have to have any return keyword. When it's returning something, you have to have the return. This method is returning something, writing the logic and then returning something. In our case, it's returning the integer. Okay, the I is the integer, so you need to have the integer as the return type. And also the collector, when you are receiving back, you have to get it in the same data type. You cannot convert from integer to string here. Does it make sense now? Yeah, statement return. Okay. Hey, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, and we will continue the session tomorrow, training session tomorrow from this. And I want you to literally do the hands-on here. Okay. Yes. Yes, we can do all the data types, any data type that you want. Okay. So, okay. So I need to pick up one call here. That guy keeps calling me. So we'll meet tomorrow, and then we'll go for the details. Okay. Meet you guys tomorrow. Yeah. Thanks. Bye.